The Council's decree. The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council chambers stretched across 3 kilometers of pure synthesized diamond, refracting the light of 17 nearby stars into cascading rainbows that danced across the assembled delegates. High Arbiter Zelithka, a towering being whose species had evolved on a high-gravity world, gazed down at the holographic display with 4 of her 6 eyes while the others scanned the room for dissent. The vote is concluded. Her voice resonated through translation matrices embedded in every delegate's neural interface. The Terran species is hereby classified as Category 5, dangerous and uncontrollable. Quarantine protocols will be enacted immediately. A murmur rippled through the 1,000 assembled representatives. Some species clicked their approval with mandibles. Others emitted satisfied pheromone clouds. The humans had been a thorn in the galaxy's side for barely 2 centuries, yet in that time they had disrupted trade routes, violated 17 sacred spawning grounds, and worst of all, they refused to acknowledge the Council's supremacy. Commander Thessa Braxton stood alone in the defendant's platform, a small circular stage that hovered in the center of the vast chamber. Her dress uniform bore the insignia of Earth's United Defense Fleet, crisp and formal despite the 72 hours she'd spent arguing humanity's case. Her dark skin showed the telltale pallor of exhaustion, but her brown eyes burned with defiance. "You can't cage an entire species," she said, her voice steady despite the hopelessness of her situation. "We've done nothing but explore, trade, and defend ourselves when attacked. Is that a crime?" Councillor Dravik, a serpentine being from the Kesari Dominion, uncoiled from his resting position. "You defend yourselves by destroying 3 Vraxian battle groups. You explore by claiming systems the Council designated as protected zones. You trade by undercutting established commerce guilds with your reckless efficiency. We destroyed those battle groups because they opened fire first," Thessa shot back. "We claimed empty systems that your protected zones left barren for 1,000 years. And we trade fairly. It's not our fault that human innovation makes us competitive." "Innovation?" Zelithka's laugh was like grinding stones. "You mean your warfare? Your aggression? Your inability to accept your place in the galactic order? For 60 million cycles, the Council has maintained peace through structure, through hierarchy, through the acceptance that some species lead and others follow. And you've decided humans should follow?" Thessa said flatly. "We've decided humans should be contained," Zelithka corrected. "Your home system will be surrounded by a military blockade. No ship enters. No ship leaves. You will be given 1 standard galactic year to recall all human vessels currently beyond the Sol system. Those who refuse will be classified as pirates and dealt with accordingly." Thessa's jaw clenched. "There are 40,000 human ships in deep space. Colony vessels. Trading frigates. Exploration craft. You're asking us to abandon them." "We're ordering you to comply," Dravik hissed. "Or face extinction." The chamber fell silent. Even the translation matrices seemed to hold their breath. Thessa took a slow, deliberate breath. She thought of her sister on the colony ship Meridian, 3 years into a 5-year journey to the Epsilon Eridani system. She thought of the mining crews in the Kuiper Belt, the diplomatic envoys on Traxxas Prime, the families who had spread across the stars seeking a better future. "Then I have a message for the Council," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "You've just made the worst mistake in galactic history." "Threatening the Council?" Zelithka's voice dripped with contempt. "How predictably human." "Not a threat," Thessa replied. "A warning. You see, the thing about humans that you've never understood is this: we don't give up. Ever. You can blockade our system, hunt our ships, declare us criminals. But every action you take will only prove that the Council isn't about peace or order. It's about control. And once the galaxy sees that, once they realize that any species who challenges the status quo faces the same fate, your authority will crumble." She paused, meeting the gaze of delegates across the chamber. Some looked away. Others leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. "We came to space with hope," Thessa continued. "We believed we'd find friends among the stars. Instead, we found a bureaucracy that calls negotiation insubordination, and calls self-defense aggression. So go ahead. Enact your quarantine. But know this, humanity won't go quietly into extinction. And when we survive, when we break your blockade and prove that your precious hierarchy is nothing but oppression dressed in diplomatic language, every species you've suppressed will remember what we did." The silence that followed was different now. Charged. Dangerous. Zelithka rose to her full 3-meter height. "Remove the human from this chamber. Commander Braxton, you are hereby expelled from Council space. You have 48 standard hours to reach the Sol system before the blockade is complete. If you are found beyond that boundary after the deadline, you will be fired upon. 2 security drones materialized beside Thessa, their weapons ports glowing with ready power. She didn't resist as they escorted her from the platform, her boots echoing against the crystalline floor. As she reached the exit, she turned back one final time. See you among the stars, counselors. Whether you like it or not. The door sealed behind her with a hiss of pressurized air. In the silence of the chamber, Counselor Marissa of the Velian Consortium, who had remained quiet throughout the proceedings, spoke softly. High Arbiter, I believe we may have just created a very determined enemy. Zelithka waved a dismissive hand. One species isolated in a single system, against the might of 8,000 member worlds? They'll surrender within a generation. They have no choice. But as the council moved to other business, as delegates filed out discussing trade agreements and territorial disputes, none of them noticed the small data packet that Commander Braxton had transmitted during her final speech. A packet that bypassed council communication controls and scattered across every independent news network in the galaxy. In it was a simple message, broadcast in 800 languages. To all free peoples of the galaxy, watch what the council does to those who dare to be free. Then ask yourselves, are you truly represented by those who would cage an entire species for the crime of independence? The message ended with coordinates to a secure communication channel and a single word: resist. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, beings of every description downloaded that message. Some deleted it immediately, fearing council reprisal. Others forwarded it to friends, to family, to the discontented masses who had chafed under council rule for generations. And in the darkness between stars, in the hidden places where the council's eyes didn't reach, something began to stir. A rumbling discontent that had existed for millennia, waiting for a spark. Humanity had just provided that spark. The war for the galaxy's soul had begun, and neither side yet understood the true cost of what was coming. Commander Thessa Braxton's shuttle rocketed away from the council station, its engines burning hard for the long journey home. In the pilot's seat, she allowed herself one moment of doubt, one whispered question into the empty cabin. Did I just doom us all or save us? The stars offered no answer. They rarely did. But 48 hours from now, the blockade would be complete, and humanity would learn what it truly meant to stand alone against the galaxy. The clock was ticking. The blockade begins. Admiral Marcus Venn stood on the bridge of the UDF Indomitable, humanity's largest warship, and watched his homeworld shrink in the viewscreen. Earth hung like a blue marble against the infinite black, beautiful and fragile and utterly trapped. Sir, sensor readings are coming in, Lieutenant Yarachin reported from her station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. They weren't kidding about the blockade. The tactical display flickered to life, and Marcus felt his stomach drop. Surrounding the Sol system in a perfect sphere, spanning billions of kilometers, sat the Council's armada. 2,000 ships, ranging from frigate-class patrol vessels to massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Each one positioned with mathematical precision, their weapons trained inward. A cage. They'd built a cage around humanity's cradle. Fleet composition? Marcus asked, his voice controlled despite the dread pooling in his chest. 12 species represented, sir. Vraxians, Kasari, Tholians, Zorvath Collective, and 8 others. Looks like the Council pulled ships from every major power to make a statement. Yara paused, then added quietly, Sir, our entire fleet combined is maybe 300 ships. We're outnumbered 7 to 1, and that's before we factor in their technological advantages. Marcus nodded slowly. He'd known the numbers before Thessa's shuttle had docked 2 days ago. He'd run the simulations 100 times. In a straight fight, humanity would last maybe 3 hours before being utterly annihilated. Any response to our hails? Nothing, sir. They're maintaining radio silence except for one repeating message on all frequencies. Yara tapped her console and a synthetic voice filled the bridge. Attention human vessels. You are in violation of Galactic Council quarantine protocols. Return to Earth orbit immediately or be fired upon. You have 6 hours to comply. This is your only warning. The message repeated, emotionless and absolute. Captain Rainer Volkova, Marcus's second-in-command, stepped beside him. The scars on her face, souvenirs from the Vraxian skirmish 2 years ago, seemed deeper in the harsh bridge lighting. What are your orders, Admiral? Marcus was silent for a long moment, watching Earth spin slowly in the display. Down there, 8 billion souls waited to learn their fate. His wife. His daughter. his grandson who'd been born just 3 months ago, a baby who might never see the stars beyond this single system. "Get me a secure channel to all fleet commanders," he finally said. "And patch in Commander Braxton. It's time to make a decision." Within minutes, the holographic display shimmered and populated with faces. 37 captains, representing every functional warship humanity possessed. Some were young, barely into their 30s, rushed through accelerated training programs when humanity first ventured into space. Others were veterans who'd cut their teeth in the Belt Wars, back when humanity's greatest enemies were pirates and corporate raiders. Commander Tessa Braxton's face appeared last, projected from the diplomatic courier ship she'd commandeered for the flight home. Her eyes were hard, sleepless. "Thank you all for joining," Marcus began. "By now you've all seen the blockade. You know what we're facing. The Council has given us an ultimatum: stay caged or face extinction." He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. "But before we discuss our response, Commander Braxton has information that changes everything." "Tessa?" Tessa's image expanded to fill the main display. 2 hours ago, I received a coded transmission from an anonymous source within the Council itself. Someone high-ranking, someone with access to classified strategic data. She manipulated controls off-screen, and a star map appeared beside her. "This is the current disposition of Council forces. Not just the blockade around Seoul, but their entire military apparatus." Red dots bloomed across the galaxy, thousands of them, scattered in clusters around various systems. "As you can see, they've pulled ships from everywhere to make this blockade happen. But here's what matters. Look at the outer rim territories." The map zoomed in on the galaxy's edge, where younger stars and less developed systems resided. The red dots were sparse, scattered, inadequate. "They've left their frontier practically undefended," Captain Jamal Foster of the UDF Prometheus breathed. "They're so focused on caging us that they've exposed themselves." "Exactly," Tessa confirmed. "But there's more. My contact also provided this." Another file appeared, dense with text and data. "The Council isn't as unified as they pretend. 17 member species have filed formal protests against the quarantine. 43 more have registered concerns. The Velian Consortium, one of the Council's founding members, is threatening to withdraw their financial support if the blockade results in civilian casualties." Captain Volkova leaned forward. "They're fracturing." "They're scared," Marcus corrected, understanding dawning in his eyes. "The Council has ruled through the illusion of unanimity for millennia. But we've exposed the truth. It's not a democracy, it's a dictatorship wearing a mask. And now that mask is cracking. So what do we do?" Captain Lee Park asked from the UDF defiant. "Even if they're politically divided, we still can't fight our way through 2,000 ships." Marcus looked at each face in turn, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. These were good people, brave people who'd signed up to explore and protect, not to fight an impossible war against the galaxy itself. But they were human. And humans had a peculiar talent for turning impossible situations into merely improbable ones. "We don't fight through," Marcus said slowly, an idea crystallizing. "We go around." The holographic conference fell silent. "Explain," Tessa said, leaning closer to her pickup. Marcus gestured, and the star map reappeared, now showing Sol system in detail. "The blockade is positioned at the heliopause about 18 billion kilometers out. Standard Council doctrine, based on their assumption that no species would dare challenge them directly." He zoomed in on a specific section of the sphere. "But they're tracking known human vessels, known signatures, known transit routes. They're looking for ships moving conventionally, following predictable physics." "Sir," Yara interrupted hesitantly, "are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Marcus smiled grimly. "The Kozlov Drive." Shocked silence. The Kozlov Drive was humanity's greatest secret, a prototype faster-than-light system that bent spacetime in ways that made Council jumpgate technology look like stone wheels. It had been developed in secret, tested in deep space facilities, and never deployed because the Council had explicitly banned any FTL technology that didn't use their licensed gate network. Using it would be an act of war. Of course they were already at war. The Council just didn't know it yet. "We've got 6 prototypes," Marcus continued. 6 ships equipped with Kozlov drives, hidden among our fleet, disguised as standard cruisers. The Council doesn't know they exist because we've never used them in monitored space. Captain Foster was shaking his head. "Admiral, even if we could slip 6 ships through, what good does that do? We need to evacuate 40,000 civilian vessels, not run a covert operation. We're not running, Marcus said, his voice hardening. We're attacking. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Those 6 ships will jump to the Council's undermanned frontier systems, Marcus explained, his hands moving across the tactical display, highlighting targets. Not to conquer. Not to kill. But to make noise. To be seen. To make the Council respond. They'll have to pull ships from the blockade to protect their territory. And when they do, when they thin their lines even slightly, the rest of our fleet will make a run for it. Conventional drives, maximum burn, scattering in 37 different directions. A breakout, Volkova breathed. You want to force them to choose between maintaining the blockade and protecting their own worlds. They can't do both, Thessa added, understanding lighting up her features. Not with their forces spread thin. They'll either let us scatter across the galaxy or they'll let frontier worlds burn. Either way we win. Do we? Captain Sarah Okonkwo of the UDF Horizon asked quietly. Admiral, what you're describing is an act of war against the entire Galactic Council. If we do this, there's no going back. No negotiation. No peace. We'll be enemies of the galaxy forever. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Captain, we became enemies of the galaxy the moment we refused to bow. The Council's made that clear. So now we have a choice. Die slowly in a cage or fight for the right to exist freely among the stars. I know which choice I'm making. He turned to address all the assembled captains. But I won't order anyone to follow me into this. Each of you will make your own decision. Those who want to stay, stay. Those who want to run, run. And those who want to fight, we launch in 48 hours. One by one the captains nodded. Some quickly, some reluctantly, but all of them nodded. They were human. They chose freedom. Then here's how this works, Marcus said, pulling up detailed schematics. The 6 Kozlov-equipped ships are Indomitable, Prometheus, Defiant, Horizon, Tenacity, and Freedom's Call. We jump simultaneously to 6 different frontier systems, far enough from the blockade that they won't see us leave. We make our presence known, draw Council forces away, and transmit coordinates for a rendezvous point in the Ether Nebula, 3 months from now. 3 months? Someone asked. The rest of the fleet will need time to scatter and evade pursuit. Some of you will make it to the rendezvous. Some won't. But those who do will form the core of something new. Not just a fleet. An empire. The word struck like lightning. An empire? Thessa repeated. Marcus nodded slowly. The Council rules through fear and bureaucracy. They've proven they'll quarantine, subjugate, or destroy anyone who threatens their authority. So we'll build an alternative. The Terran Empire. Free systems, free trade, free people. We'll offer protection to anyone who wants out from under Council control. We'll become what the Council should have been, a true alliance of equals. That's treason against the entire galactic order, Captain Park said, but there was no condemnation in his voice. Just wonder. Yes, Marcus agreed. It is. But sometimes treason is just another word for revolution. He looked around at the assembled faces, seeing the moment they all made their choice. Seeing them transform from naval officers following orders into revolutionaries fighting for survival. We have 48 hours to prepare, he concluded. Make them count. Dismissed. The holograms winked out one by one until only Thessa remained. Marcus, she said softly, if this works, we'll have split the galaxy in 2. Council versus Empire. It'll be war on a scale the galaxy hasn't seen in millions of years. I know, he replied, suddenly feeling every one of his 63 years. But they left us no choice. They wanted to cage humanity, but all they've done is release something that should have stayed sleeping. Human desperation. And there's nothing more dangerous in the universe than a desperate human with nothing left to lose. Thessa smiled, a warrior's smile, cold and sharp. Then let's show them exactly what that looks like. See you at the rendezvous, Admiral. 3 months. 3 months, he confirmed. And Thessa? Thank you. For speaking truth to power even when it cost everything. We're human, she replied simply. It's what we do. Her hologram vanished. Marcus turned back to the view screen, watching the Council blockade ships patrol the edges of his prison. In 48 hours, those ships would learn a hard lesson. You could cage a beast, but the moment it broke free, it would be hungrier and angrier than you could possibly imagine. Lieutenant Chin, he called out. Sir? Begin Operation Breakout. Authorization Ven Alpha 7. And somebody wake up the Kozlov drive engineers. We've got 6 experimental engines to prep and exactly 2 days to make sure they don't tear our ships apart when we jump. Aye, sir. As the bridge erupted into controlled chaos, As orders flew and systems powered up and humanity prepared for its desperate gamble, Admiral Marcus Venn allowed himself one final look at Earth. "We'll be back," he whispered to that distant blue marble. "I promise. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs, we'll break this blockade and come home free. That's the human way." The stars seemed to shimmer in response. 48 hours until humanity's fate was decided. 48 hours until the galaxy learned that some species would rather burn than kneel. The countdown had begun. Breaking the cage. 48 hours later, the UDF Indomitable hummed with barely contained power. In the engine room, 6 levels below the bridge, Chief Engineer Dmitry Kozlov stood before the drive that bore his father's name. The massive device pulsed with blue-white energy, coils of exotic matter spinning in magnetic suspension, bending reality itself into shapes that made human eyes water to perceive. "All systems green," he reported into his comm, though his hands trembled slightly. "Kozlov drive is ready for jump. But Admiral, I have to say this one more time. We've never tested a combat jump. Never pushed the drive while under stress. If the Council fires on us mid-sequence, then we die instantly instead of slowly," Admiral Venn's voice crackled back. "I'll take those odds, Chief. Stand by." Dmitry exhaled slowly and patted the massive drive assembly. "Come on, Papa's dream. Don't fail us now." On the bridge, Marcus stood at the center of a hurricane of activity. Yarachin coordinated with the other 5 Kozlov-equipped ships, synchronizing their jump coordinates down to the nanosecond. Captain Volkova monitored the blockade, watching for any sign that the Council had detected their preparations. "Status?" Marcus asked. "All ships report ready," Yara confirmed. "Drives charged, coordinates locked. We jump in 2 minutes. The rest of the fleet? Positioned and waiting. The moment we jump, they'll begin their burn. 37 different vectors just like we planned." Marcus nodded, then opened a fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, this is Admiral Venn. In 2 minutes we make history. We break the cage they've built around humanity and show the galaxy that we will not be contained. Those of you jumping with me, remember, we're not starting a war. We're defending our right to exist. Make noise, draw their attention, but avoid civilian casualties. We're better than the Council. We have to prove it." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "To those making the conventional breakout, scatter fast, scatter far, and trust your training. Some of you will make it to the rendezvous. Some won't. But every one of you carries humanity's future. Make it count." Across the fleet, on 300 ships, crews stood at their stations with clenched jaws and racing hearts. Families huddled in cargo bays. Children clutched their parents. Everyone knew that in minutes, everything would change. 30 seconds, Yara announced. The Indomitable's bridge lights dimmed as power redirected to the Kozlov drive. Through the view screen, Marcus could see Earth one last time, that beautiful blue marble that had birthed humanity's dreams. 10 seconds. Marcus gripped the railing. For Earth. For freedom. For humanity. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump. Reality shattered. The Indomitable folded space around itself, twisting through dimensions that had no name in any language. For a single eternal instant, Marcus existed everywhere and nowhere, saw past and future bleeding into present, felt the entire universe collapse into a single point of infinite density. Then they were through. The view screen flickered and stabilized, showing not Sol System but the Tertian frontier, a small colony world on the Council's outer edge. The planet below was green and peaceful, home to a Velian mining operation. "Jump successful," Yara shouted, her voice cracking with relief and adrenaline. "All systems nominal." "We made it, sir." "The others?" Prometheus reports successful jump to the Corvin system. Defiant made it to Thesha. Still waiting for confirmation from Horizon, Tenacity, and Freedom's call. There. All ships accounted for. All jumps successful. Marcus allowed himself one moment of triumph. Then he got to work. Broadcast on all frequencies. Let them know we're here. The message was simple and devastating. Attention, Tertian system. This is the Terran warship Indomitable. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to kill. But we will no longer accept the Council's tyranny. To the people of this world, you have nothing to fear from us. To the Council, you wanted our attention. You have it. Similar messages echoed from the other 5 jump ships across 6 different frontier systems. 6 simultaneous declarations of defiance, each one a knife thrust into the Council's carefully maintained facade of control. On the Council station, alarms screamed. High Arbiter Zelithka burst into the command center, her scales flushing deep purple with rage. What is the meaning of this? The operations commander, a nervous Tholian named Sevik, manipulated holographic displays with his tentacles. High Arbiter, we're receiving reports of human vessels appearing in 6 frontier systems simultaneously. They bypassed the blockade entirely. We don't know how. Show me. The display lit up with tactical data. 6 human ships, appearing from nowhere, broadcasting their presence like beacons. And worse, much worse, the rest of the human fleet was moving. The blockade. Zelithka roared. The other humans are attempting a breakout. Yes, High Arbiter. 300 vessels, burning at maximum thrust, scattering in multiple directions. Our blockade ships are attempting to intercept, but there are too many targets, too many vectors. We can't catch them all. Counselor Dravik slithered into the command center, his eyes cold. Then we stop the ones we can. Order the blockade to fire. Destroy every human ship within range. No. Counselor Marissa's voice cut through the chaos. The Velian representative stood in the doorway, flanked by a dozen other delegates. You will not order mass slaughter without a full council vote. They're breaking quarantine, Dravik hissed. They're attacking our worlds. They're broadcasting, not attacking, Marissa countered. And if you start killing fleeing civilian vessels, you'll prove every accusation they've made about us. Is that what you want? To be remembered as the council that committed genocide? Zelithka's claws dug into the console. The Velian was right and she knew it. If they started massacring humans, the political fallout would be catastrophic. Dozens of member species were already questioning the quarantine. Bloodshed would turn questions into revolt. But if they didn't stop the humans, if they let them scatter across the galaxy, the council's authority would be shattered forever. Pull half the blockade ships, she finally ordered. Send them to the frontier systems. Protect our colonies. But the rest maintain the quarantine line. Disable any human ships attempting to break through, but avoid fatal fire unless absolutely necessary. That's not enough ships to maintain an effective blockade, Sevik warned. I know, Zelithka growled. But it's all we can do without triggering a civil war within the council itself. The orders went out. Back in Sol System, Captain Lee Park of the UDF Defiant watched the blockade ships begin to move. Gaps appeared in the sphere, small at first, then widening as nearly 1,000 council vessels burned hard for jump points, racing to protect the frontier from the 6 human ships that had magically appeared there. It's working, his tactical officer breathed. They're splitting their forces. All ships, this is Defiant, Lee transmitted. Execute breakout now. Those gaps won't stay open long. 300 human vessels lit their engines and charged. The remaining council blockade ships opened fire. Space erupted into chaos. Energy beams lanced through the void, missing some human ships, clipping others, destroying a few outright. The UDF Courage exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. 400 souls vaporized in an instant. The civilian transport New Dawn took a glancing hit that vented 3 cargo bays into space, but kept flying, limping toward freedom on damaged engines. Evasive maneuvers. Captain Park shouted as a beam sliced past his ship's hull, so close he could see the metal glowing. Maximum burn. Don't stop for anything. The human fleet scattered like startled fish, each ship following its pre-programmed vector, weaving through the council blockade's fire. Some made it through. Some didn't. But the gaps were there, and humans poured through them like water through a breaking dam. On the Indomitable, 3,000 light-years away, Marcus watched the real-time data feed with clenched fists. 37 ships destroyed, Yara reported, her voice hollow. 52 more damaged. But 211 made it through the blockade. They're scattering now, too far apart for the council to track them all. 211 ships. Out of 300. 70% survival rate on what should have been a suicide run. The frontier? Marcus asked. Council forces inbound on all 6 of our positions. 30 minutes. Sir, we need to jump again soon or we'll be overwhelmed. Not yet. We hold position for 15 more minutes. Make them commit everything they have to stopping us. Give our people more time to get clear. Sir, if we wait too long? I know the risks, Lieutenant. 15 minutes. Then we jump to the rendezvous. Those 15 minutes stretched like hours. The Indomitable held position above Tertian, her weapons powered but not firing, broadcasting defiance on every frequency. On the planet below, confused colonists watched the human ship hang in their sky like a sword of Damocles. Then the Council fleet arrived. 50 warships, maybe more, materialized at the system's edge and burned hard for the Indomitable's position. Their weapons were already charging, their intent crystal clear. "That's our cue," Marcus said calmly. "Chief Kozlov, spin up the drive. Yara, signal the other ships. Synchronize for jump on my mark." "Drive charging," Dimitri's voice came through, strained. 60 seconds to full power. The Council ships were closer now, close enough that Marcus could make out individual hull markings on the lead dreadnought. 40 seconds. Weapons fire. The Council ships opened up at extreme range, desperate to disable the human vessel before it could escape. Energy beams slashed through space. The Indomitable's shields flared, absorbing hit after hit, but the shield generators were screaming, overheating, on the verge of failure. 20 seconds. "Sir, shields at 15%. Hold course. All power to the drive." 10 seconds. A massive blast struck the Indomitable's port side. The shields collapsed completely, and the beam carved a molten scar across the hull. Alarms shrieked. The bridge lights flickered. "Drive at 100%. Dimitri shouted. "We can jump now." "All ships," Marcus commanded. "Jump." Once again reality bet. The Indomitable and her 5 sister ships folded space and vanished, leaving the Council fleet firing at empty void. The human vessels reappeared in the Ether Nebula, a massive cloud of gas and dust that scrambled sensors and made tracking nearly impossible. "Status?" Marcus barked. "Hull breach on decks 4 and 5. Casualties unknown. Life support holding. Weapons offline. But we made it, sir. We're clear." Marcus sagged against the command chair, suddenly aware of how close they'd come to annihilation. Around him the bridge crew was cheering, crying, embracing. They'd done it. Against impossible odds they'd broken the cage. "Signal the fleet," Marcus ordered. "All ships are to disperse into the nebula and maintain calm silence for 72 hours. After that, we begin the search for survivors. Anyone who made it through the blockade has these coordinates. In 3 months, we'll see how many of our people found their way home." As the Indomitable drifted into the concealing embrace of the nebula, Marcus pulled up a holographic display of the galaxy. 211 ships scattered across thousands of light-years. 6 jump ships hidden in a sensor-dead zone. And somewhere High Arbiter Zelithka was learning that humanity couldn't be caged, couldn't be contained, couldn't be controlled. The power struggle had truly begun. But as Marcus studied the tactical data, a chilling thought occurred to him. They'd won the battle, yes. They'd escaped the blockade and proven human defiance. But they'd also shown the Council exactly what they were capable of. The Kozlov drive, kept secret for so long, was now exposed. The Council would be studying their jump signatures, reverse engineering their technology, preparing countermeasures. Worse, they'd scattered their forces across the galaxy. 200 separate vessels, each one vulnerable, each one a target. The Council would hunt them. Would try to destroy them one by one before they could regroup. And then there was the biggest question. What happened when those 6 frontier systems reported that the human ships had done nothing but broadcast messages and then leave? Would the Council admit they'd been manipulated? Would they acknowledge their overreaction? Or would they double down, paint humanity as an existential threat, and rally the galaxy against them? Marcus suspected he knew the answer. "Yara," he said quietly, "start composing a message for the rendezvous point. Every human ship that makes it there needs to understand something. We're not refugees anymore. We're not explorers. We're not even rebels. Then what are we, sir?" Marcus looked at the galaxy map, at the scattered points of light representing human vessels, and made his decision. We're the Terran Empire. And it's time we started acting like it. No more running. No more hiding. We find allies, we build strength, and we prepare for the war that's coming. Because the Council won't stop until we're extinct or enslaved. So we'll give them a third option: defeat. Yara's eyes widened, but she nodded. "Yes, sir. I'll prepare the message." As she worked, Marcus stared out at the swirling gases of the nebula and thought about the road ahead. They'd broken free of Earth's cage, but in doing so, they'd imprisoned themselves in a larger one. A galaxy at war with humanity caught between the Council's tyranny and their own desperate bid for survival. The power struggle between Council and Empire was no longer theoretical. It was real, it was deadly, and it would reshape the galaxy. 3 months until the rendezvous. 3 months to see if enough humans survived to build an empire. 3 months until the real war began. The cage was broken, but the battle for freedom had only just started. The gathering storm. 3 months later, the Ether Nebula became the most dangerous place in the galaxy. Commander Thessa Braxton stood on the observation deck of the newly christened Terran Empire headquarters, A massive station assembled from the salvaged hulks of damaged ships and asteroid mining equipment. Through the reinforced viewports, she watched vessels arrive one by one, emerging from the nebulous swirling gases like ghosts materializing from mist. That makes 147, Captain Volkova said beside her, updating the count on her datapad. Better than we hoped. Worse than we needed, Thessa replied grimly. 147 ships out of the 211 that broke through. 64 vessels lost to Council hunters, mechanical failures, or simply vanished into the void. 64 ships carrying 15,000 souls who'd never see the empire they died to create. Admiral Venn wants you on the command deck, Volkova continued. We've got incoming signals. Non-human. Thessa's head snapped around. The Council found us? No. These ships are broadcasting friendship codes. They want to talk. 10 minutes later, Thessa stood beside Admiral Venn in the command center, watching 3 vessels approach the station. None of them matched Council designs. The lead ship was elegant, crystalline, catching the nebula's light and scattering it in prismatic displays. The second was brutish and angular, built for war. The third looked cobbled together from a dozen different technologies, a patchwork vessel that somehow radiated personality. Hail them, Marcus ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, splitting into 3 sections. 3 alien faces appeared, each one representing hope that humanity wasn't alone in its defiance. The first was Avelian, her features delicate and luminous, her eyes containing depths of ancient wisdom. I am Ambassador Lyris of the Velian Free Colonies. We've left the Council. The second was massive and reptilian, scales gleaming like polished obsidian. I am War Chief Krager of the Vraxian Rebellion. The Council killed our war chief for refusing to fire on civilian human ships. We have come to repay that dishonor with alliance. The third was a surprise, a human. A woman with cybernetic implants covering half her face, her eyes glowing with artificial light. Captain Sora Tanaka of the independent trader collective known as the Wanderers. We've been operating outside Council jurisdiction for 20 years. Figured it was time to make it official. Marcus straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. These weren't just visitors. They were the seeds of something greater. Welcome to the Terran Empire, he said formally. Though I should warn you, we're not much of an empire yet. More like a collection of survivors hiding in a nebula. Lyris smiled. All empires start somewhere, Admiral. The Velian Consortium ruled 100 systems once. We started with 3 ships and a dream. What you need is not size but legitimacy. And weapons, Krager growled. The Council will come for you. For all of us. We must be ready. What we need, Sora Tanaka interjected, is a network. Information, supplies, safe harbors. The Wanderers have maintained shadow trade routes for decades. We can get you what you need without the Council knowing. Marcus exchanged glances with Thessa. This was it. The moment where they stopped being refugees and started being something real. Then let's talk, Marcus said. But not over comms. You're welcome aboard the station. Let's build this empire together. Hours later, the command center had been transformed into a war room. Holographic displays showed the galaxy in unprecedented detail, marked with Council strongholds, independent systems, and the scattered positions of human vessels. Around the table sat representatives of 4 species, united by a common enemy. The Council is in chaos, Lyris explained, manipulating the display to show political data. The Velian Consortium formally withdrew our support 2 weeks ago. 17 other species have followed. The Council still has the majority, but they're bleeding support every day. Why? Thessa asked. What changed? You did, Lyris replied simply. Your escape, your defiance, it showed the galaxy that the Council's power isn't absolute. For millennia, species have chafed under their rule but never dared to resist. You proved resistance is possible. Krager slammed a clawed fist on the table. The Vraxians honor strength. The Council showed weakness when they caged you out of fear rather than meeting you in honest battle. They dishonored themselves. We want no part of cowards. The Wanderers have always hated the Council's monopoly on trade and travel, Sora added. Their gate network, their tariffs, their regulations. We've been waiting for someone to challenge them. You did. So here we are. Marcus leaned forward. What you're describing isn't just an alliance. It's a rebellion. If we formalize this, if we create an actual alternative to the Council, we're dividing the galaxy into 2 camps. The galaxy is already divided, Lyris said softly. The Council just hasn't admitted it yet. Admiral, there are hundreds of systems tired of their tyranny. colonies that want independence, corporations that want free trade, species that want self-determination. All they need is someone to rally behind. Someone who's already proven they can stand against the Council and survive. You want us to be that symbol? Thessa realized. More than a symbol, Lyris corrected. We want you to be the alternative. The Terran Empire, a true confederation of free systems. Not ruled by Earth, but protected by human courage and ingenuity. Marcus was silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down on him. He'd been a naval officer, a defender of Earth. Now these aliens were asking him to become something more, a founding father of a new galactic order. If we do this, he said slowly, the Council will come with everything they have. They can't allow us to exist without destroying their entire authority structure. Then we prepare for war, Krager said eagerly. No, Marcus said firmly. We prepare for survival. War will come whether we want it or not, but we don't seek it out. We build our strength, we gather our allies, and we show the galaxy that there's another way. He stood looking at each of them in turn. The Terran Empire will be founded on 3 principles: freedom of choice, mutual defense, and fair trade. Any system that wants to join us is welcome, regardless of species. Any system that wants to leave can do so without punishment. And we will never ever force our will on others the way the Council does. Agreed, Lyris said immediately. Agreed, Krager rumbled. Agreed, Sora nodded. Then let's make it official, Marcus said. He pulled up a document he'd been drafting for weeks, the founding charter of the Terran Empire. Every species here signs this. We're not just allies of convenience. We're the foundation of something new. As they reviewed the document, adding clauses and amendments, debating every detail, none of them noticed the small probe that had drifted into the nebula's outer edge. A Council probe, drawn by the electromagnetic signatures of so many ships gathering in one location. The probe recorded everything. The station. The ships. The 4 species meeting together. Then it quietly turned and jumped away, carrying its intelligence back to the Council. On the Council station, 3 days later, High Arbiter Zelith Ka watched the probe's recording with growing horror. They're not scattered anymore, she said, her voice hollow. They've regrouped. And they're recruiting allies. Counselor Dravik coiled tighter around his perch. The Velians. I knew they'd betray us eventually. And the Vraxians, we should have purged them when their war chief refused orders. We can't purge everyone who disagrees with us, Counselor Marissa said tiredly. She looked older now, worn down by the constant crisis. That's how we got into this mess. Every heavy-handed action drives more species into the humans' arms. Then what do you suggest? Zelith Ka demanded. We let them build their empire? Let them steal our member systems one by one. I suggest we negotiate, Marissa said. Open diplomatic channels. Find a compromise before this becomes a full-scale war. Negotiate. Dravik hissed. With species that have abandoned the Council? That would legitimize their rebellion. Their rebellion is already legitimate, Marissa shot back. 17 systems have withdrawn from the Council. Hundreds more are considering it. We can't fight them all, Dravik. We need to find a political solution. Zelith Ka considered this. The Velian was right that military action alone couldn't solve this crisis. But negotiating with the humans would be seen as weakness, would invite more species to challenge Council authority. We'll send an envoy, she finally decided. Not to negotiate but to deliver an ultimatum. The humans and their allies have 30 days to disband their so-called empire and return to Council jurisdiction. If they refuse, we'll have no choice but to consider them enemy combatants and act accordingly. That's not a diplomatic solution, Marissa protested. That's a declaration of war with extra steps. Then they shouldn't have started a rebellion, Zelith Ka replied coldly. Council session adjourned. Prepare the envoy. As the counselors filed out, Marissa lingered, staring at the holographic image of the human station floating in the nebula. Such a small thing, really. A few ships, a makeshift base, a handful of desperate species clinging to a dream of freedom. But she'd studied human history. She knew what humans were capable of when cornered. She'd seen their wars, their revolutions, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat even when all logic said they should surrender. The Council was making a terrible mistake. But she was just one voice among thousands and no one was listening anymore. Back in the Ether Nebula, Admiral Venn received word of the approaching Council envoy. They're giving us 30 days to surrender, Thessa reported, reading the encrypted message that had been broadcast on all frequencies. After that, they're declaring us enemies of the Galactic Order. 30 days, Marcus mused. They're generous. They're giving us time to be afraid, Krager corrected. Time to doubt ourselves. Time to fracture. Then we don't give them that satisfaction, Marcus said. He pulled up the tactical display, showing the 147 ships that now formed the core of the Terran Empire's fleet. In 30 days we need to be twice this strong. Lyris, how many systems are considering joining us? 43 have sent initial inquiries. Most are waiting to see if we can actually survive the Council's response. Then we need to show them we can. Sora, your Wanderer network, can it supply arms and equipment? For a price, everything's available. But Admiral, even if we triple our fleet size, we're still vastly outnumbered. Numbers aren't everything, Marcus replied. We've got something the Council doesn't: motivation. They're fighting to maintain control. We're fighting to survive. That makes all the difference. He stood, addressing the assembled representatives. 30 days. In that time, we fortify the station, we reach out to every system that's ever questioned Council authority, and we prepare for the worst. Because when that envoy arrives, we're going to tell them exactly where they can put their ultimatum. That will mean war, Lyris warned. We've been at war since the moment they tried to cage us, Marcus replied. We just haven't admitted it yet. But now it's time to stop running, stop hiding, and start fighting for the right to exist as free beings in a free galaxy. That's a step forward. Then let me deliver our response to the envoy personally. I started this by defying the Council. Let me be the one to tell them we're never backing down. Marcus nodded slowly. Make sure they understand, Thessa. Make sure they know that the Terran Empire isn't just humanity anymore. It's every species that's tired of bowing to their authority. This isn't Earth versus the Council. It's freedom versus tyranny. And freedom doesn't surrender. Over the next 30 days, the Ether Nebula transformed. The makeshift station grew into a fortress, bristling with weapons salvaged from a dozen different species' arsenals. Human ingenuity combined with Vraxian engineering and Velian technology, creating defensive systems the Council had never seen before. Ships arrived daily. Not just the scattered human vessels but others. A Tholian mining fleet, tired of Council extraction quotas. A Zorvath science expedition that wanted to research without bureaucratic oversight. Even a few Council military vessels, deserters who decided they'd rather fight for freedom than maintain someone else's empire. By the time the Council envoy arrived, the Terran Empire had 234 ships and 500,000 souls from 17 different species. The envoy ship was a sleek diplomatic vessel, unarmed and broadcasting peace codes. It docked with the station under careful watch, and the envoy, a silver-scaled Celestian named Vryn, was escorted to a meeting room where Thessa waited. Commander Braxton, Vryn said, his voice melodious. I bring greetings from the Galactic Council and an offer of peace. 30 days to disband or be destroyed isn't an offer of peace, Thessa replied coldly. It's an ultimatum. So let me save you some time, Envoy Vryn. The answer is no. Vryn's scales flickered with surprise. You refuse? Even knowing what the Council will do. Especially knowing what the Council will do, Thessa said. She stood, moving to the viewport where the assembled fleet hung in space like scattered stars. Do you see those ships, Envoy? They're not just human. They're Velian, Vraxian, Tholian, and a dozen others. They're here because they're tired of the Council's tyranny. Tired of being told where they can go, what they can trade, how they must live. She turned back to face him. The Terran Empire isn't a rebellion against legitimate authority. It's a rejection of illegitimate control. The Council had millennia to earn the loyalty of its member species. Instead, it ruled through fear and bureaucracy. So no, we won't disband. We won't surrender. And when you go back to your masters, you tell them this: the galaxy has changed. There's a choice now. Council or Empire. Tyranny or freedom. And more species are choosing freedom every day. Vryn was silent for a long moment. Then quietly he said, You know they'll destroy you for this. They'll try, Thessa agreed. But here's what the Council has never understood about humans and about every species that's joined us. We'd rather die free than live as slaves. So bring your fleets, bring your weapons, bring your righteous fury. We'll be waiting. And when the dust settles, the galaxy will remember who fought for freedom and who fought to cage it. Vryn bowed slightly. I will deliver your message, Commander. Though I fear it will be the last peaceful words exchanged between us. Then make sure they're memorable, Thessa said. The envoy left. His ship undocked and jumped away, carrying humanity's defiance back to the Council. In the station's command center, Marcus watched it go. Well, he said quietly. That's that. We've officially declared ourselves enemies of the Galactic Council. No going back now. Was there ever? Thessa asked, joining him at the viewport. No, Marcus admitted. I suppose not. The moment we chose freedom over compliance, this became inevitable. Now we just have to survive what comes next. We will, Thessa said with certainty. Because we're human. And humans don't know how to quit. Marcus smiled grimly. Let's hope the rest of the galaxy learns that lesson too. The Council's response came 3 days later. Not a message, not a warning, but a fleet. 2,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in recorded galactic history, jumped to the nebula's edge and began their inexorable advance toward the Terran Empire's position. The war for the galaxy's future had begun. And neither side would emerge unchanged. The Battle of Ether Nebula. The tactical display in the Indomitable's command center looked like a vision of humanity's end. 2,000 red dots representing Council warships formed a perfect sphere around the nebula, tightening like a noose. Against them, 234 blue dots marked the Terran Empire's fleet, clustered around their makeshift station like children huddling in the dark. They're not even trying to hide their numbers, Captain Volkova observed, her voice tight. They want us to see how outmatched we are. They want us to surrender, Admiral Venn corrected, studying the enemy formation with calculating eyes. High Arbiter Zelithka is giving us one last chance to back down before she commits to slaughter. Will we? Commander Thessa Braxton asked, though she already knew the answer. Marcus met her gaze. What do you think? Thessa smiled coldly. I think the Council is about to learn that numbers aren't everything. The communication console chirped. Lieutenant Yara Chen looked up. Sir, incoming transmission from the Council fleet. It's High Arbiter Zelithka herself. Put her through. The view screen flickered, and the towering form of Zelithka appeared, her scales dark with fury. Behind her, the command deck of a Council super-dreadnought stretched into the distance, packed with officers from a dozen species. Admiral Venn, she said, her voice resonating with barely contained rage. I am authorized to offer you one final opportunity. Surrender your station and your fleet. All personnel will be detained but treated fairly under Council law. Refuse and you will be destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to decide. Marcus stepped forward, his posture relaxed despite the death sentence hanging over them. High Arbiter, I appreciate the offer. But I have a counter-proposal. Withdraw your fleet, acknowledge the Terran Empire's sovereignty, and we can avoid bloodshed. You have 1 hour to decide. Zelithka's eyes widened in disbelief. You dare mock me? Admiral, you are outnumbered 9-1. Your station is indefensible. Your ships are cobbled together from salvage. You have no chance of survival. You're probably right, Marcus agreed amiably. But here's the thing about humans, High Arbiter. We've been outnumbered before. Outgunned before. Told we had no chance before. We have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. You're about to find out which matters more. Then you choose extinction, Zelithka said flatly. No, Thessa interjected, stepping into frame beside Marcus. We choose freedom. There's a difference. Zelithka's gaze shifted to Thessa, recognition flashing in her eyes. Commander Braxton. The human who started all of this with her defiance in my chambers. How fitting that you'll die here with the rest of your species. If we die here, we die free, Thessa replied. Can you say the same about all those Council species out there? How many of them are fighting because they believe in your cause, and how many are fighting because they're too afraid to refuse? The question hung in the air. For a moment, something flickered across Zelithka's face, uncertainty, doubt, but it vanished quickly. 1 hour, Admiral. Use it to make peace with whatever gods humans pray to. The transmission cut off. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers ran final checks on weapons systems, shield generators and communication networks. Marcus watched them work, these brave souls who'd chosen to stand against impossible odds. All fleet commanders report to Tactical Channel Omega, he ordered. The holographic display populated with faces. Captain Lee Park of the Defiant, War Chief Krager aboard the Vraxian battleship Blood Oath, Ambassador Lyris on the Velian cruiser Starzinger, and 31 others representing the Empire's diverse fleet. You all heard the ultimatum, Marcus began. In 53 minutes, the Council fleet will attack with overwhelming force. By every tactical calculation, we should be annihilated within hours. But we're not going to fight by Council calculations. We're going to fight smart, fight dirty, and fight like our very existence depends on it. Because it does. He manipulated the tactical display, highlighting key points in the nebula's swirling gases. The Council thinks the nebula is a trap boxing us in. They're wrong. It's our greatest weapon. Their sensors can't penetrate these gas clouds worth a damn. They'll have to come in close, fight in visual range, and that negates their numerical advantage. It also makes coordination nearly impossible, Captain Park observed. We'll be fighting blind too. Which is why we're not going to coordinate, Marcus said, and smiled at their confused expressions. The Council expects a defensive formation, ships protecting the station in organized squadrons. So we're going to scatter. Every ship moves independently into the nebula, using the gas as cover. We become ghosts. We hit them from unexpected angles, vanish, then strike again somewhere else. Death by 1,000 cuts. Krager's laugh boomed through the channel. Ambush tactics. I approve. My people have fought this way for generations. The Wanderers have been dodging Council patrols for 20 years, Captain Sora Tanaka added from her patchwork freighter. We know every trick for disappearing in sensor-dead zones. We can teach the rest of the fleet. Lyris nodded thoughtfully. The Velians have gravitic mines, old technology the Council banned centuries ago. We've kept some in storage. We could seed the nebula with them, create a minefield they can't detect until it's too late. Do it, Marcus ordered. But here's the crucial part. We're not trying to win. Not today. We're trying to survive. Every ship that makes it through this battle is a victory. Every Council ship we damage or destroy is a bonus. Our goal is to make the Council realize that conquering us will cost more than they're willing to pay. And if they're willing to pay that price? Someone asked quietly. Marcus's expression hardened. Then we make sure the galaxy remembers what happened here. Every species watching this battle needs to see that the Council will slaughter anyone who dares to be free. That knowledge will be worth more than any tactical victory. The hour counted down like a funeral dirge. At the 40-minute mark, the Council fleet began its advance, moving in perfect formation through the nebula's outer edges. At 30 minutes, Velian ships finished seeding the nebula with gravitic mines, invisible death waiting in the swirling gases. At 20 minutes, the Terran Empire fleet scattered, each ship diving deep into the nebula, disappearing from Council sensors like phantoms. At 10 minutes, the station's civilian population evacuated to specially modified cargo vessels hidden in the nebula's densest regions, protected by volunteers who'd sworn to defend them with their lives. At 5 minutes, Admiral Marcus Venn stood alone on the Indomitable's bridge, everyone else at their stations, and thought about the path that had led them here. From Earth's quarantine to this moment, humanity had been pushed, threatened, and nearly destroyed. But they'd survived. And today they'd proved that survival was just the beginning. At 0, the Council fleet entered the nebula in force and hell erupted. The first Council ships to penetrate the dense gas clouds never saw the mines. Gravitic weapons, banned for their indiscriminate lethality, detonated in silent fury. Artificial gravity wells crushed 3 dreadnoughts instantly, compressing metal and flesh into spheres of ultradense matter the size of basketballs. 5 more ships were caught in the gravitational shear, torn apart as competing forces ripped them in opposite directions. First blood, Yara reported with grim satisfaction. 8 Council ships destroyed, no losses on our side. But the Council fleet didn't stop. They couldn't. To withdraw now would be to admit defeat before the battle even began. So they pressed forward, their sensors blind, their formation breaking apart as the nebula's gases interfered with their coordination. That's when the ghost struck. The UDF Defiant materialized from a gas cloud directly above a Council cruiser, fired a full spread of missiles at point-blank range, and vanished back into the nebula before the enemy could return fire. The cruiser, its shields overwhelmed, broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions. 2 systems away, the Vraxian battleship Blood Oath emerged from concealment, its massive plasma cannons tearing through a Council destroyer's hull like paper. Krager's battle roar echoed across open channels as his ship wheeled away, disappearing into the nebula's embrace. Again and again the pattern repeated. Empire ships would appear, strike, and vanish, using the nebula as both shield and weapon. The Council fleet, unable to coordinate, unable to track their enemies, began firing at shadows, at ghost signals at each other. They're in chaos, Volkova reported, unable to hide her amazement. 3 Council ships just fired on their own forces. Their command structure is collapsing. But the Council had numbers, and numbers eventually told. As Empire ships darted in and out of cover, some were caught by lucky shots. The human freighter New Horizons took a direct hit and exploded, 400 souls lost in an instant. The Tholian mining ship Prospector's Dream was bracketed by 3 council vessels and pounded into scrap. Casualties mounting, Yara said, her voice strained. We've lost 19 ships. But the council's lost 63. Nearly 3-to-1 kill ratio. Impossible odds being slowly ground down by human cunning and desperation. Then everything changed. A massive energy spike registered on the edge of the nebula, and Yara's face went pale. Sir, the council's deploying their super weapon. The Unifier. Marcus had heard rumors of the Unifier, a planet killer the council kept as their ultimate deterrent. A weapon so powerful it could ignite a star or shatter a moon. A weapon they'd never used because its very existence was enough to enforce compliance. Until now. The Unifier, mounted on the council's largest dreadnought, began charging. The nebula itself seemed to recoil from the gathering energy, gases swirling away from the weapon's muzzle. Estimated time to firing? Marcus asked, his voice steady despite the terror clawing at his chest. 3 minutes. Sir, if they fire that into the nebula, the chain reaction will kill everything inside. Council ships, Empire ships, everyone. Then we make sure they can't fire it, Marcus said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Venn. The Council has deployed their super weapon. If it fires, we all die. I need every ship capable of jump to converge on my coordinates. We're going to do something incredibly stupid. That doesn't narrow it down much, Sora Tanaka quipped, but her ship was already moving. 6 ships emerged from the nebula, the 6 vessels equipped with Kozlov drives. The Indomitable led the formation, burning hard for the Council's super dreadnought, ignoring the dozens of enemy ships between them and their target. 2 minutes to firing, Yara announced. Council ships opened fire, beams and missiles converging on the small human formation. The Tenacity shields collapsed, and the ship took critical damage but kept flying, kept accelerating toward the dreadnought. Chief Kozlov, Marcus called down to engineering. I need a simultaneous jump. All 6 ships, same coordinates, synchronized down to the microsecond. That's never been done, sir. The gravitational interference could. Can you do it or not? Pause. Then, yes, sir. Sending synchronization data now. 90 seconds to firing. The 6 ships were in formation now, flying in perfect unity, dodging fire that grew more accurate as they closed the distance. The Freedom's call took a direct hit to its engines and began tumbling, but its captain, with his dying breath, kept his ship on course. To be continued.